Alright guys, before we go any further, I wanted to address one little problem. I forgot, or I guess I didn't really think I could include it, but there was this little chip that came with the front derailleur, and it is a supporting plate, a backing plate that goes against your frame. There's a little grub screw that you screw in to, I guess, assist for stability and, I guess, the lower limit. And I guess this is vital because I was playing with the gears a few minutes ago and it almost went over the outside, so it almost wanted to throw it, and then I went back down to the low and it almost wanted to throw off the low. So I think we need to do a little bit of adjustment on the derailleur. We'll get that plate installed. I'm going to have to file down the corner on it because it doesn't really fit around the hanger. I'm going to take off the derailleur and I'll show you close, but we'll do that little modification, get the derailleur put back on and adjusted according to the specifications, and try it again. Okay, so I need to have the plate right around this area, and it's a square and this is rounded. So I need to file off the corner, and then the sticker that it comes with is insufficient. We got to find something better. So I'm thinking we'll just super glue it. Okay, so I just took the tiny little chip and I filed off one of the corners, so it should fit up next to the derailleur hanger a little bit better. And I think I'm going to use some super glue on the back side to hold it in place. And I also gave the little edge on the opposite side a little file too, to make it a little bit more flat, because it's kind of a generic bend and my seat post, my seat tube, isn't as curved as this. It doesn't need to be that curved. So every time I was putting it in, it was spitting it out. So I'm going to try to flatten it a little bit here and then get it to stick a little better. Okay, you should be able to see a little silver plate there now. So I filed the corner, glued it in there with some super glue. We're going to let it sit for a few minutes and then we'll put the derailleur back on. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing here. I'm tightening the front derailleur, but I'm towing it in. I'm putting the rear edge, the trailing edge, in about 1 millimeter or 2 from flat. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the grub screw here and tighten it, and that's going to bring it back to flat. That's what I wasn't doing before. So that is the first step of adjusting the derailleurs. Okay, so it's all back together now. What I used was a metal ruler as a straight edge, and you go across the big ring and it's supposed to touch the back of the derailleur, and you just use the grub screw to bring the back in close to where it touches. And I've shifted it a few times and it's nice and strong, it's nice and chunky. Before it kind of was hesitant and wanted to maybe go over the leading edge, whereas now it's nice and strong and firm and on there. Okay, so now we'll move on to the brakes, the final part. I got the professional brake cutting tool and pin press, so hopefully it should be a pretty straightforward process. Each brake came with all the hardware. We'll start with the front brakes. I'll just cut a clean edge and press the pin in. We'll install the hose up here in the top first, and then we'll go down to the bottom and size it and cut the other end, install the caliper, and then to bleed the brakes, we have to have the brake bleed block. The little yellow block goes in there. So to bleed them, I have to take the wheel out, and then we will put the wheel back in when we're done. Okay, so using the tool is really simple. You just slide the hose through and have a little bit come out the other side. You put the other half of you put the cutter part into the press part, so they kind of mutually hold themselves together. You put pressure on the blue handle to hold the hose in place, and then nip the tip. The pin is pressed in, so now we just install it in the shifter. And at this point, you want to remember, if we're going to lower the stack height or adjust the shifters, it's going to change the hose length. All right, I have the front caliper loosely mounted in the 140 millimeter position, and I'm going to go ahead and install the top part. I've got the pin in, so I'm going to go ahead and install the top into the shifter, and then I'm going to come back down to the bottom, pushing up a little bit, give it a little bit of extra slack, and then I will cut it and install it into the caliper. All right, I have the bike flipped around here. I've gone ahead and cut the bottom part to length and installed the pin, press the pin in. So now we just put the crush washer and the fitting on. We're going to do them up fairly tight for now, and then we'll torque them down a little bit tighter later and make sure we have all the fitment right as far as the shifter height goes. And then we'll put the bleed blocks back in, tighten everything down, and bleed the brakes. The factory top fitting that comes with the shifters has some plumber's grease on it to make a better seal. The lower fitting does not have any of that on it. So I'm going to go ahead and use some plumber's tape, and we're going to put a couple threads around that, and that should do the same thing. It takes a bit of patience and a little bit of skill, and you just wrap 1 or 2 turns of it around, and that should make a good seal. All right, the fittings are on, both top and bottom. So now that I've got the shifter right where I want it, I marked it with electrical tape, so tightened it down pretty much as it needs to go, only a couple Newton meters. They don't need much at all. So now that I've got the fittings tight, I'll go ahead and take off the caliper, and I think I'll be lazy and not take off the front wheel, and we'll just put the bleed blocks in and bleed the brakes while it's dangling here. Okay, I think I have the front brake bled and not rubbing, so let's see. No rubbing, full stop. It's almost a full lever. I'm doing it kind of soft. We'll see. I want to have a nice feel to it. But yeah, no rubbing. All right, guys. The front and the back brakes are on. They're not rubbing, and they both feel pretty even. I'd say the back might be a little bit softer, but no rubbing. So now we'll just put some bar tape on it, and that's the whole bike. All right, the right side is done. Now I'm going to do the left side. I think right about to there is about as far as I can go. It covers up the logo otherwise, and the bar gets really wide. So I think it's only designed to have the tape come to about here and cover up that hole. All right, guys, that's the finished bike. Brakes work, gears work, tires are kind of halfway inflated right now. At this point, I need to go through and do the adjustment mode on the derailleurs and make sure all the limits are set, and then inflate the tires to the correct pressure, make sure my cockpit is tight and straight with the front wheel, and then make sure my seat angle and seat height is correct, and then I'll go take it for a test ride. Before we close up today, I will go ahead and weigh it without pedals and without bottle cages, and then we'll put those 2 things on and weigh it again. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get you guys high enough to see the measurement, but we'll try. Right now it's on kilograms. I'm going to have to let the handlebars turn. That's 7.16 kilograms. And then for pounds, $15.86. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy between the pounds and the kilograms measure. So we'll split the difference and call it about 15 3/4 pounds, which isn't bad, I don't think. So like I had mentioned in an earlier video, we're going with Ultegra pedals just to finish off the group set and make it all match as much as possible. And then a set of unbranded water bottle cages, carbon. I don't know, they look pretty good, pretty decent, pretty strong. So we'll give them a shot. They're pretty light. All right, now with the bottle cages and the pedals on it. It's about 16.5, and then kilograms. It's about 7.49. Okay, not bad, right? 7.45 kg equals about 16.5 pounds, rounded up. So we'll call it 16.5 pounds. I'm pretty proud of that, guys. For under $4,500, top of the line kit, 16.5 pounds, pretty good. All just standard, nothing fancy stuff. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and close it up today, I think. We'll give it a test ride, shakedown ride tomorrow, and make sure nothing's going to fall apart or is misaligned and uncomfortable. But yeah, I think I'm pretty pleased with this purchase and with this brand. But I'll give you a full report after about 20 miles on it around the neighborhood, and a little bit better photos outside of it too. So thank you guys again for hanging out with me. We will talk to you next time.